Ah! Ah! Ah!
Mic check. Should we keep that in? Just us spazzing out. Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Two Wins podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Kenny, and I'm actually joined by my brother.
Billy, how are you?
You know, not too bad. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Happy days. What you been up to?
Well, we went and give B&Q a little visit. Had to get some paint. Kenny's redoing his room.
That's true.
And, got a nice bacon roll from the burger van while we was up there. Got a nice Rio to go with it.
So, the aim of the podcast today, I know we've gone over it a bit. The listeners, I just want to say that this is actually a kind of a story time. I will be, if you see me looking down, I'm referring to notes that I've got because I don't know it off the top of the dome. All right.
Give him a break, man.
Yeah, give me a fucking break. I seen the fucking comments. John from fucking Stoke. I'll kill ya.
I'll tell you what. You get to the end of it and you tell me whether you can remember it all off the dome, all right?
Yeah. Go on. Do it.
Right, now we've got that out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
And also Karen, from Cornwall.
All right, let
you're
go.
getting it.
Let go.
Talk about my fucking
Come on.
haircut.
Let go.
Fuck her. No, it really upset me, that.
No,
Right.
it's all right.
So what we have planned today, guys, is a little bit of storytelling. And I know the word storytelling might be a bit like, oh, that's boring. We don't want to hear a fucking story. Well, in my opinion, it's actually one of the greatest life stories ever. And it is actually based on fact, not fiction.
I know if you're like myself, I certainly prefer something when I know that it is based on fact, especially knowing that this actually happened.
This did happen.
Actually a person. This was actually a thing. All these people, and the names that you're going to hear, it was actually on this earth once upon a time walking.
That's true. So I just want to say, do you remember when we first started talking about doing a podcast? Immediately, the person that went through my head was this man I'm about to talk about. So this is the story about an absolute badass, and he's a samurai turned Ronin, who goes by the name of Miyamoto Musashi. Ooh. And I actually do have a tattoo dedicated to him, and I got it before Joe Rogan actually mentioned it. So fuck all of you people saying, oh, he's a Joe Rogan fanboy. No, I got this tattoo dedicated to him before I even knew Joe Rogan had one.
Yeah,
That's true, ain't it? Back me up, Bill.
that is definitely true.
Thank you. Right, cheers for that.
I must say, I do briefly know who you're going to talk about beforehand,
Right.
only because I have listened to the Joe Rogan episode. I do briefly know about it, but I was at work. You know how it is at work. You kind of listen, but you don't listen. You're just chilling, going about your day. So I'm all for actually hearing about it.
That's excellent, because you're going to be hearing about it. And this is actually one you can kind of sit back, chirp your way in if you want.
I'm gonna keep muting my mic so that if I'm moving about my chair, you can't hear it. But
Okay.
I'll be here. I'm listening.
Thank you. Don't leave. You can't go anywhere anyway because I've blocked you in.
I might need to run and grab my vape actually in a minute, but
That's fun.
we'll get into it and then.
Yep. Real quickly, I must say that again, I'm going to be looking down here because my notes are here. Although it is factual that this badass did exist, some do argue about certain events, certain versions to how things unfolded. And I'll try my best to make what I say based on Miyamoto Musashi's own words or reliable sources. And sometimes I will include a version of, that period or storyline of parts that I think sounded cool, even though they might not be 100% accurate.
So don't be getting your magnifying glasses out and analysing everything down to the little core.
Exactly. So, got a question.
It's an old story,
It's
not easy being this
True.
old.
And I spent fucking ages doing research.
All right.
I spent ages doing research. Fucking hell.
Jesus.
It's not hard working a 9 to 5 and then coming home doing research.
Here we go.
Right. Do you know who Miyamoto? Do you know who Miyamoto is?
Well, from my understanding, he is a samurai.
Okay. Excellent.
I know that he created a very famous book that people still follow today.
Ooh.
I know that there's certain rules that apply within that book.
Yeah,
I know that he had an insane kill ratio, obviously,
he's been looking at my
and
fucking notes.
I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to say how, but I'm pretty sure the way which it all come to an end was, it was like a story.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
Right, well, let's kick off by setting the scene. The year is 1584, so that's a long old time ago. A little boy has just been born by the name of Miyamoto Benasuke in a small village by the name of Miyamoto Village, which is apparently where he got his family name from, as it was fairly common for the Japanese back then to name their children after locations.
So if you had a village with a population of like 500 and the village was called Aqua Lake,
Right.
and you went in the middle and you said, Aqua Lake, come here, you'd probably get about 50 kids running at you from all different angles.
I thought you was going to chirp in and say, imagine if we had that here. You just see a kid called Chatham or a kid called Gillingham.
That is true.
You want to slide over so you're in.
Not
Come
good.
on, stop touching my leg. Right. It was fairly common, again, for Japanese to name their kids after places that they lived. His mother, unfortunately, died giving birth to him. However, it is highly speculated that she died when Miyamoto was 10 years of age. His father, Shimen Munisai, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, I'm going to struggle with some of these, was an accomplished martial artist and a master of the sword, as well as being a samurai for a shogun, therefore meaning that Miyamoto was born into the samurai lifestyle, so from the get-go he was learning the ways of the warrior.
What is a shogun?
A shogun is pretty much, so you've got kind of like the Japanese government, and then below them you've got the shogun, and the shogun, they're pretty much like King Charles of that area, I guess.
Yeah, high kind of.
So everything goes through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Ooh, I guess, yeah, I mean, they're in castles, so back then you think people was living in fucking places made of paper, and you got this cunt living in a castle. As Miyamoto grew older, he developed eczema, which affected his appearance. You're going to like this. Other sources do claim that his skin problems stemmed from the possibility that he never took a bath, as he didn't want to get caught unarmed.
Well, he could have whipped out the razor.
That's true.
In the bath.
I don't know if
Did they have razors back then?
Probably not.
They could have.
Have you seen the fucking samurais? Have you seen the samurais' haircuts? Do you think they had razors, mate? They was bald all the way around there.
Right. Do you know something that I heard? And this was actually from a friend. You know when you see, sorry, this is off topic, but he was talking about being unarmed, and this just sparked like the conversation. You know when you see people in prison, like prison nowadays, they've got their t-shirt up and it's over their head and like around their neck. Do you know the reason? It's not because they want to look cool on camera. It's actually to stop them getting stabbed in the neck. And I didn't know that until I see a photo of one of my mates with it in prison, and I was like, why have you got that on? You don't act like that. And he was like, oh, nice, to stop, like, if someone wants to come up behind you and stab you in the neck, you can't, because you got the extra layer. Because obviously, it's not like they've got big Rambos or anything like that in prison. They've literally got.
It's funny you talk about prison, because I was thinking about, not having a bath just because you didn't want someone to come up and stab you. And is that really worth it? One, you're walking around, flies following you, you're stinking of shit and being worried that you get shanked up in the bath. But that doesn't seem to stop prisoners having showers.
If I'm right, samurai armor weren't exactly the lightest of things to have on, so he was sweating it up under there. He was chafing it.
See, that all depends what period you come from. I know you've got like the Edo era. You've got like I think the 1500s to the 1600s is certain in betweens. They started upgrading. So you've got the samurai, which eventually evolved to having the neck bits, which is again because they found faults in the armor that you could still behead someone. But yeah, there's a lot of progress being made when it comes to the samurai armor. You can watch it evolving. Young Miyamoto was known as a troublemaker and caused a lot of issues in his village. He struggled to fit in and get educated, so he took the route of being a little shit. This resulted in him being taken up to be brought up by his uncle, who would teach him the ways of a Buddhist in the Shurian temple. To move to his uncle's, this would change his mindset, but he still longed for the adrenaline of being a hot-headed nutjob. So after years and years of following in his dad's footsteps by practicing martial arts and learning how to be a swordsman, he was only 13 when he felt ready to take his first duel. He challenged an older samurai by the name of Arima Kibi after feeling disrespected, claiming Arima would treat him like a child. The duel resulted in Musashi slamming him up the floor and beating him with a 6-foot wooden pole until his opponent died spewing blood out of his own mouth. And that's him at 13 years old, kicking the shit out of someone with a wooden pole and killing them.
At 13 years old, I was doing tail whips in a skate park on a scooter, and when that MGP deck come round and smacked you in the ankle, that bloody hurt. But that done me enough. Let alone being in a full on duel to the death and beating someone with a stick.
We got it easy, haven't we?
Yeah, we do. When's this around? What 1584? 15.
Well, he was.
This is the 1500s.
Yeah. So this is 1500s.
Late 1500s.
Yeah, well, he would have been, if he's 13 then and he's born in 1584, he would have been, I'm terrible at maths, he would have been,
No,
it would have been in 1590s.
Yeah, nearly 1600s, nearly early
Yeah,
1600s.
Closing up. Again at 16, he defeated a fella called Akiyama in a duel. It's important to note that the story goes, Miyamoto stumbled across a note written by Akiyama asking for people to sign up to duel him, and obviously our little scrapper Miyamoto, he signed on the dotted lines. That's like nowadays posted on Facebook, someone meet me outside Tesco for a scrap. A monk who lived with Miyamoto was approached by one of the Akiyama's accomplices to alert him that Akiyama accepts Miyamoto's challenge. So the monk goes, "Oh no, I'm sorry, he's just a young boy, like we don't mean no harm." And Akiyama's accomplice, he goes, "Well, he won't accept that. You're going to have to go and tell him. You're going to have to bring like Miyamoto down to the village, and you're going to have to say in front of a crowd that he don't want to fight him, because otherwise our reputation is ruined." So that's what the monk said. The monk said, "Yeah, I'll do that." So he dragged Miyamoto down there, and as the monk stepped forward to apologise, Miyamoto steps behind him and starts shouting, "Come on," something along them lines, "I'll kill ya." And he actually, he goes to jump on Akiyama, and he ends up killing him in front of the crowd. So you've just seen a highly respected samurai in a village get killed by, a young kid. So that obviously didn't.
So their protector that they rely on to protect them from the village just got killed by a 13, 14-year-old.
Yeah. And it was a sharp piece of wood as well that he found. It wasn't even a weapon.
That poor monk that thought that he was resolving the issue.
Yeah.
And then
he just watches the kid who's meant to be looking after.
See, that's why you just don't try sometimes.
Exactly. At 21, Miyamoto travelled to Kyoto and fought duels with several swordsmen from famous schools and never lost any of them. In the 1600s, the war began between the Tokugawa and the Toyotomi crews. It is rumoured that Miyamoto took sides with the Toyotomi's Army of the West due to his family having alliances with them. He actually ended up fighting 6 battles alongside them. So he's not just going around killing people for fun and dueling, he's actually taking part in wars.
And doing his bit.
And you might know the Tokugawa, they're quite a big clan. Like they done bits really. If you look into the history, they smashed it. The Army of the West got fucked up pretty bad. Miyamoto would now become a Ronin after losing his master. And I don't know why, but Ronins, to me, they sound so much more cooler than samurai. Do you know what a Ronin is?
So I do.
So a Ronin is pretty much, when you're a samurai, you serve as a master. You're serving somebody. And I think samurai translates to something like protector or servant or something like that. And when you lose a master, you then lose your job. So you become a Ronin, and a Ronin basically travels around looking for either a new master or he's looking to work his way up. A lot of them started going back to being farmers. So the second you turn into a Ronin, you've lost money, you've lost a lot of things.
So really, is it the highest bidder, or is it once you're kind of employed by a Ronin, you'll stick with that one now? Or do people switch?
You,
Say if they go up in status, or like they've kind of got a bit more about them now, would they switch to someone which would pay them better?
No, those prided on their loyalties. Although there was a case with Nobunaga, his name was. You can research this, and this isn't relevant to this case. He actually started off as a farmer, then worked his way into a castle cleaning the shogun's sandals. He was a sandal cleaner, so he'd clean his shoes, and from them he worked his way up, carried on working his way up, got in the army, then he served on the front line, and eventually he worked his way up to be a shogun. And Nobunaga actually took over the whole of Japan. So he worked his way up from a sandal
From
cleaner
a sandal
to
cleaner.
owning the whole of Japan. So
Talk about rags to riches.
yeah, exactly that.
Crikey.
But anyway, it has been suggested
Also,
a member of a powerful military caste. What does that actually translate
samurai,
to? Let's have a look. Bill's just Googling it.
warrior, or knight.
Right. See, I always thought samurai translated to protect. I don't know where I read that from though. It has been suggested that Miyamoto fled like an absolute pussyhole and spent some time in training on Mount Hakusan. This is where Miyamoto Benisuke decided to change his name to Miyamoto Musashi after apparently being persuaded to do so by his father. At the age of 20, he arrived in Kyoto again, where he began a famous series of duels against the Yoshioka school. So now we're starting to see a pattern of Miyamoto travelling around dueling anyone and everyone. Now, I will just say, this is pretty cool. It's not, in my opinion, it's not the coolest part of this story, but it's pretty sick. So I'll just fly through it. You can chip in if you want to ask questions or anything. So at the start, Musashi challenged Yoshioka Seijuro, master of the Yoshioka school, to a duel. Seijuro accepted, and they agreed to have a duel outside Rendaji Temple on March 8th, 1604. Miyamoto decided to turn up late, which absolutely pissed off Seijuro. They faced off, and Miyamoto struck a single blow, which hit Seijuro on the left shoulder, knocking him out and breaking his left arm. Seijuro was apparently so embarrassed by this, he decided to retire and become a fucking Zen monk. He retired and became a monk.
So someone which spent their whole life as a samurai way
I'm not sure if he was a samurai. I think he was a teacher in martial arts.
got embarrassed and bodied in front of everyone in his village.
He's like he just sits there after losing, just shaving his head. I'm gonna go up to the temple.
No. It's like Nate Diaz doing makeup tutorials.
Yeah. Nate Diaz doing makeup tutorials. But it's also important to mention that he gave up the school to his brother Denshichiro. Denshichiro immediately wanted revenge for the embarrassment brought upon his family, so he challenged our guy Miyamoto to a duel, and obviously our main man accepted. Shortly after, they arranged to meet outside of a temple in Kyoto, but obviously Miyamoto turned up late, yet again. Denshichiro was armed with a staff, reinforced by steel rings. Do you know what that is? Kind of looks like a fucking curtain pole, to be honest. You know them?
One.
Brilliant.
That's what it looks like.
Oh yeah, that is actually what it looks like. Good job. I thought you meant your finger. He went like this, and I thought he was giving me the middle finger.
I was saying it is on screen right here.
I literally thought you meant this one.
There you go. Here's our screen full.
Should I just do loads of like really bad swear words so you have to spend half an hour? Beep beep.
No, because I won't bother.
Oh,
if we get
demonetized,
it'll be on your head.
Yeah, that's true. So Jesus Christ, I've got something in my throat. So he obviously turned up late.
Should we can I quickly run and grab my vape?
Go on, mate.
Do you need a drink?
Yeah, go on.
And we're back.
And we're back. So we just went to
Get a drink.
little drinky drink. I was actually dying for a drink, and I could feel like my mouth forming.
Grab a drink and we're do a vape unboxing. We got watermelon ice gold bar on this one. Go and open it. Oh, see a lovely. Fucking give me that. I need my nicotine fix.
Quite a bit. That sounded well good
I
down
need
the
my
mic.
fucking nicotine fix. Look at the side. I've started this little collection, but I'm slowly running out of room on the side of my monitor. I don't know if you can see all them labels.
Right. So we was actually at the.
Oh yeah, I've had my fix. That's much better. I've had my fix. As you were, sorry.
Thank you. So I'll start that little paragraph over.
Run it back.
So obviously, where was we? We got. We have got. We got Seijuro has just lost the battle to Miyamoto. He decides to retire, become a monk, and he's now passed the school down to his brother Denshitaro, who wanted revengeance on Miyamoto Musashi. They arranged to meet in a temple outside in Kyoto. Obviously, Miyamoto turned up late yet again, and Denshitaro was obviously pissed about this. He's come out with a staff with reinforced steel rings. This was no use as Miyamoto disarmed him and defeated him with ease. So he's come at him with a fucking curtain rack, and Miyamoto's just disarmed him and fucked him up.
He's come with that. I'm coming to avenge my brother. You mugged my brother off in front of everyone. You made my brother do makeup tutorials on YouTube, like all that anger, and then yet again.
That was his moment, you know, like an anime where he's like, "I've come to get revenge for you killing my brother."
The whole storyline and plot to this one moment.
This could have been his moment, but no, he got
flopped.
He got flopped up.
He got bodied. So
this second victory absolutely destroyed the Yoshioka clan, completely pissed them off. Can you imagine being? Well, they were the best. They were one of the best martial arts classes and schools in the whole of Japan. So they had good credibility, good reputation, and Miyamoto's destroyed two of their best. So it obviously pissed the Yoshioka clan off, and they actually got so rolled up that the clan decided to make the leader. You ready for this? They made the leader a 12-year-old boy because he was the only person in reign, because obviously Miyamoto was destroying them.
And they pretty much knew that Miyamoto wouldn't come and kill a 12-year-old boy, I'm guessing. Right. So they kind of chickened out.
You're halfway there.
No.
You're halfway there.
No. No, please. Surely not.
So they decided to obviously offer Miyamoto a duel with him.
What, the 12?
The
12-year-old boy you're referring to.
So the clan actually put out a request saying that they wanted a duel with Miyamoto and a 12-year-old
so
boy.
The clan signed a 12-year-old boy up.
But they arranged it at dark in night. So Miyamoto is quite a smart man. He thinks, you don't arrange duels at night, that's not common. So he starts thinking, then he realises, it's a big setup.
It's probably an ambush. Yeah.
It's an ambush. So they arrange a meeting place. And what is it he does, Miyamoto?
What does he do?
This time he turned up 2 hours earlier, which is the first time he's ever turned up early, because he knew it was a setup. He then went to hide in a bush, and when he notices them arriving, he leaps from his hiding place and ambushes the whole force. And whilst he ambushes them, he manages... So you know the 12-year-old?
Yeah.
He beheads him, chops his head off.
Chops the 12-year-old's head off.
Yeah, chops the 12-year-old's head off. And that's obviously... You've got all the 40-year-old weirdos hanging around with this 12-year-old.
There is a high chance this video is going to get demonetized after that one, but
fuck that. I've heard some fucked up shit before on podcasts.
Every time we record a video, there's a fly pissing us off.
Yeah, we must stink of shit like fucking Miyamoto. Right. So he's turned up 2 hours early. He's seen them arrive. He's jumped out of bush, beheaded the 12-year-old. All them people he's with, or all the rest of the clan, they're armed with bows and arrows and actually rifles. And Miyamoto He's circled by them. So what does he do? He pulls out another sword and he starts chopping his way out. And he manages to escape. And it is here where apparently he actually learnt the fight style, or become aware of the fight style, that you could actually fight someone in a duel with two swords. And this became his own fight style.
So he's like the Is it Michelangelo with the?
I don't know. It was his trademark,
Yeah.
though. That's all I know.
He's
But
like one of the Ninja Turtles now.
no, the Ninja Turtles are like him. He was there before.
Yeah, okay.
Fuck you, Michelangelo, you fucking freak.
Turtles lived for a very long time, and then Ninja Turtles are probably very old.
Fucking Killian
They
and
weren't made
Mbappe.
in
I'll
them.
fuck that rat up as well out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Do you want a spoiler? I'll
Go
tell
on.
you the whole ending of Ninja Turtles.
Go on.
No, I can't. There might be people watching that care.
All
All right, all of them die, and then it's down to the red one, Raphael, and then he actually ends up using all of their weapons combined.
This is the new one.
No, this is
Oh.
the whole. So yeah, next time you watch Ninja Turtles, just know they all die.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Very off topic.
How did we just go from a samurai to Ninja Turtles?
That's the glory of a podcast.
That's true. Intrusive thoughts. So yeah, that became his trademark of using two swords. He then went on to travel for a bit to learn his master swordsman technique more. He learnt from monks, and he also taught people his fight strategies, starting a school, having students, such as his two-sword technique. Everyone loved it. Everyone bloody loved it. He'd walk around town, everyone would be like, oh my god, it's the fucking motherfucking two-sword king. There he is with his two swords and stuff. That was a two-sword man.
He's known as the two-sworder, the dual wielder.
Well, apparently he was hung like a horse, so they used to call him the three-sworder.
Jesus.
Walking tripod. Right.
Crikey. That
So
is insane, though. So he's gone about chopping 12-year-olds' heads off, showing people up,
yeah,
and he's still quite young.
he is quite young, yeah. Skipping forward a bit to the years of 1605 and 1612, it's a bit jumbled here, so I've kind of put them in between them years.
He's in his 20s, 30s, late 20s, 30s now.
Yeah, like still fairly young. About growing facial hair, I reckon. Musashi travelled all over Japan in a warrior pilgrimage era, during which he improved his skills with more duels. As if he wasn't good enough, he's still practicing and taking more duels. And in the duels in that time, like in that era, the loser's life was not taken unless it had been previously agreed upon that the fight would end in death. So you could, I guess, kind of like submit them, or when
So-
someone's defeated, they tell you and you can't kill them.
In a way, it's old age sparring,
Yeah, I guess so.
but you're probably getting kicked the shit out of a lot more than what you would.
Yeah, you could
in
probably
today's-
injure your opponent, but you can't kill them.
Maybe break a leg. Maybe break a little leg.
Rip their nipple off.
Go.
Imagine if I had jiu-jitsu back then, you got fucking Samurai's 9 jiu-jitsu. Holy shit. Fucking hell. It'd be good on stand-up and then just get you on the floor and rear naked choke you. So, they obviously, them years aren't documented well, but he was still going around kicking people's asses. Musashi was said to have a wooden sword as his weapon, showing that he truly did not give a single fuck about what weapon he used, and in my opinion, I think he found it funny that he could beat the shit out of someone using a wooden sword when they think they're so good with a crafted sword, like a full-on metal sword. In 1607, his father, Musashi, dies, and in Edo, pretty much Edo is what Tokyo is today. Edo is that area, or the land. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. I'm going to fucking chop his head off in a minute.
As he jumped off the bed, then he went, "Ow!"
Musashi duels again and defeats Muso Gonusuke. Not much is known about this duel, but in his book, Musashi did quote, "Genosuke is strong." That's all we know. That's the only research we have about this duel. Oh, I just swallowed and my ears popped. One sec.
So he was
Sorry
carrying two of them bad boys.
Oh, that.
He was carrying two of these bad boys.
He was carrying two of them.
Carrying two of them bad boys up there.
On April 14th, 1612, at the age of 28, My guy Musashi had his most famous duel, and this is my favourite story about a samurai ever, and I think you're going to love it. This famous duel was held with Sasaki Kujiro, if that's how you pronounce it. This duel is definitely the most talked about, and that's for good reason, Billy Boy. You got any speculation as to why this duel is so talked about? Whilst unmuting your mic.
The reason why this duel might be the most talked about, maybe the person he's going against is very well known or very popular. Could be along them lines. Maybe even someone of importance.
Oh, he's good. He's good, guys.
Is that where we're headed?
Bill's cold with it. So obviously, he's arranged this duel with Sasaki. Sasaki, who wielded a long two-handed sword, was the Shogun's martial arts teacher. So he's teaching the Shogun, arguably the most important person in the area.
So he used the OG.
He's the most reputable, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was the most feared and credited warrior in Japan. Sasaki is a flashy twat. He wore the best drip he could get, as well as playing the part as an ideal warrior. And obviously, Miyamoto, he's the opposite. He's walking around stinking as shit. He's wearing disgusting clothes. And also back then, you'd a lot of samurais that shave their head just around this bit here. But Musashi didn't like that. Musashi, he wore what made him comfortable, and he didn't abide by any rules that stood for samurais or anything like that. By rules, I mean appearance-wise.
So this guy was just going about doing whatever the fuck he wanted, pretty much.
Yeah.
And getting away with it.
And that Sasaki is he's dressed up like a fly twat.
Yeah. So he's got the latest bamboo tines in his flip flops, and
exactly,
he's looking fresh out.
He's looking fresh. He didn't care about his appearance, obviously, Miyamoto, and he didn't try to live by the samurai code. So was seen as a disgrace to some people in Japan. And obviously, remember I spoke about that war earlier where he ran away like a pussy hole. So that that was kind of shunned upon, and he got a bad reputation for that. So Sasaki arranged to meet Miyamoto on an island, although it could have been Miyamoto arranging to meet him, because obviously Sasaki, his credibility was quite good being the Shogun's martial arts trainer. And no fucking surprise, Sasaki turns up in his best clothes. He's using the best swords money could buy. I believe the swords were crafted by the best swords craftsman in Japan, or the sword maker. He then waited for Musashi on the remote island of Funajima, and obviously Miyamoto Musashi turned up late. He's pissed off his opponent by making him lose focus again. But here's the thing that's insane to me. It's reported that Musashi took a boat to reach the island, and whilst he waited to arrive, he realised he didn't have a weapon, or he obviously didn't care about having a weapon. So he's took the oar from the boat and he started sharpening that, using that as a weapon. And he's going against the best martial artist in Japan at the time, or samurai. He was a samurai. He was the best samurai in Japan. He's going against him. And he hasn't brought a weapon, so he just starts sharpening his oar to his bow.
That'll do it. That's the weapon of choice.
Not just that, though. He decides to fall asleep on the way over to the island.
So he's fresh off a nap, fresh off a jet lag,
Yeah,
fresh off a seasick.
exactly that. And whilst he waited to arrive, he obviously slept for quite some time. So he wasn't speeding to get there. He's cruising, he's sharpening an oar, doing what he has to do. When Miyamoto finally turns up, Sasaki is absolutely fuming. He's fuming about him being late and the fact that Miyamoto was wearing dirty rags and looks dishonourable.
And stunk of shit, probably.
And stunk of shit, yeah. We forgot that one. Say it again.
And stunk of shit.
Yeah, no, he
with an oar.
Definitely stunk of shit.
With an oar.
So you got
wearing rags.
Yeah, you got this man running about like a cum rag, carrying an oar.
Pretty much, you got the most drippy, walked out of Louis Vuitton guy from London going against crackhead from Chatham. It looks like at the minute.
That's true, but it's important to note that back then the drip was sandals made of straw.
Oh, you could have crocodile skin on them bad boys. Woo!
Oh, that's true.
Gee.
He actually, I didn't add this in here, but he actually wore red leather pants, dyed red leather pants.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the kind of guy we're dealing with. Michael Jackson. As the fight began, Sasaki was so pissed off, he was shouting at Miyamoto, calling him a shameless warrior. Miyamoto smiled at him, laughed, and said, "You've already lost, fool," knowing that Sasaki is already letting his emotions get in the way of his fight. The duel started by the samurai and Ronin charging at each other. Sasaki cut a piece of Musashi's clothing, but Musashi had a cut to the face of Sasaki. I know it's confusing with all the names. So they've ran at each other.
One's got a cut across the body.
It's either, apparently it could have been the arm sleeve, but some records also show that he actually wore a bandana and Sasaki managed to cut the bandana without cutting Miyamoto's face, so it cut the bandana off his head.
That is insane. And the other guy's got a gash on his face, did it say?
Yeah, Miyamoto gashed Sasaki in his face.
With the oar.
With the wooden oar, yeah. So they then charged against each other again, and this time Musashi would slice the throat of Sasaki, killing him instantly. And I mean, that to me, that seems like an anime battle. They're charging at each other. They're fucking like just trying to stab each other and all
So
this
the
crazy.
first one, they was like, shing,
Yeah,
just dodged, and then they go running at each other again.
like some shit out of a movie.
And then here he is with his fly red pants.
There's another theory on it. There's plenty of theories, but I think this one's kind of important to mention. So the oar, some people say he didn't forget a weapon. He chose to do that because Sasaki, he was known for carrying a really long wooden pole, and that was apparently how he had such a good reputation, because he liked keeping distance and he felt like if he was further away he could do more damage without getting hurt. So it's rumoured that Miyamoto carved his weapon out of an oar so he could get more distance on him and play him at his own game. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
There's levels to this shit.
There is.
There's levels.
Musashi's late arrival is still a subject of controversy, as Sasaki's bumboy supporters thought it was dishonourable and disrespectful, although others thought it was a fair way to annoy his opponents before the duel has even started. So, what do you think? Do you agree with him turning up late to get in his opponent's head, or do you think that it's a bit unfair?
I think well, it is clever on his part. If he's generally doing that on purpose, it is clever on his part, because we've actually seen that type of stuff happen in the UFC, where like
Conor McGregor, sorry I'm late, I just don't give a fuck.
Exactly. But
you're always trying to get in your opponent's head.
I think surely if he keeps doing this to people, they must just expect it. When they arrange it, they must be like, oh, he's saying he's going to get it till sundown. He's probably not going to get it till sunrise. Like,
yeah.
Surely they've got to expect it. So I don't know. Maybe it's their fault for actually. Yeah, maybe it's their fault for actually letting it get to them.
Yeah, and also we see it not just in combat sports, even in football. When you're taking a penalty, you can try and get in the goalie's head. The goalie can try and get in your head. A lot of mind games. So it's been going on for years in different sports. But obviously Miyamoto was just the boss at it. Another theory to this duel is that Musashi timed the hour of his arrival to match the timing of the tide. The tide carried him on the island, and after his victory, Musashi took legs and jumped back in the boat. He timed it perfectly with the turning of the tide, so it brought him back out away from all of Sasaki's mates. Which I think, if that's true, that's a fucking smart move. You're timing it right with the tide, and you're dipping there, killing him, and dipping back out.
Done the job.
Done the job. Get out of there. In 1627, Musashi began to travel again. He adopted a son called Lori, and he engaged in very few duels in this time, or this period. One in which Musashi defeated a lance specialist, Takada Metabe. Not much is known about these years in his life, and the duel isn't really much known about.
He was taking a break. He was going off doing the father thing, being a good dad.
Exactly that.
Did you say he adopted as well?
He adopted. Back then, it was quite common to adopt people. I think he adopted one. I think Laurie was actually one of his students.
Fair play. I bet some of his swimmers would have been expensive anyway, being a man of that honour.
He was actually noticeably big, because back then I think the average Japanese man was like something like 5'4", and he actually stood at 5'8", so he was quite a tower power.
And it weren't the fact he couldn't get a woman because he stunk of shit either.
That's true. That is true. He probably did have a cheesy knob though. If he ain't bathed, he definitely had some cheese growing under there. In his sixth and final battle, Musashi supported his son Lori and Lord. Right, let me try and pronounce this. Lord Okasawara. No, Lord Ogasawara. Go on, Bill. You have a go at that.
Ogasawa.
Right, we'll take that. As a strategist directing their troops, his son Lori served with excellence in putting down the rebellion and gradually rose to the ranks of Cairo, a position equal to a minister. So Musashi is already raising his son to be quite the badass, following his father-in-law. What is it called when you adopt someone? Are they still are they your father?
Yeah,
Adopted father.
Adopted parents, yeah. Adopted father.
Oh, right. Well, he's raising him right, is what I'm trying to say. Unfortunately, in 1642, Musashi suffered attacks of neuralgia, showing links to future ill health, which I don't know much about. I've heard stuff saying he had a form of cancer, but at that time, obviously, no one knew what it was. In 1643, he retired to a cave named Reijando as a hermit. This was to write Gorin no Sho, also known as the Book of Five Rings, which, by the way, I've read and one of my favourite books. I fucking love it. I absolutely love it. I've read it twice now. He finished the book in 1645, and on May 12th, sensing that the Grim Reaper was hot on his tail, Musashi wrote yet another book and passed his most loved possessions and his manuscript copy of the Book of Five Rings to the younger brother of his closest disciple, to Rao Magon. May 19th, 1645.
So he's just retired to a cave to write a few books because he knows that his death's coming.
Yeah. He also, some speculate that he took a religious turning, but in one of his books he writes in it something along the lines of, I love Buddha and I love the God, but I can't rely on them, or something along them lines, saying that he believes them and he loves them, but he wouldn't let his life
Depend on it. Yeah.
Exactly that, yeah. So he's retired to the cave. He's finished the book in 1645, and he's given all his stuff to his closest disciple. May 19th, 1645, Miyamoto Musashi sadly passed in the cave he retired to. Some of his concerned students would discover him, and at the moment of his death, he had himself raised up, he had his belt tightened, and his wakizashi put in it. He seated himself with one knee vertically raised, and I don't know how that's possible. So he's died literally kneeling up. I don't know what he's done. He's obviously duct taped himself somewhere. He was holding the sword with his left hand and a cane in his right hand. He died in this posture at the age of just 62. It's a good age.
Especially for the 1600s. That's
Yeah.
a very good age. And what was it? 1840 something. 1840 something. He was born.
1645.
Oh,
Just
sorry,
200
my
years
bad.
off.
16. No, when was he born?
He was born
15.
He was born in 15. Where are we? He was born in 1584.
So, and we were at 1645. So he ain't done bad.
No, he's
He
not.
has not done bad, especially for his time
Yeah, no, he's not done bad at all. That's good.
and the line of work that he's in.
So he died at 62.
Retiring in a cave.
The weird thing is that a lot of people spoke about how they see Miyamoto Musashi around the age of 50. There was a fire in a village and they see him jumping rooftop to rooftop at the age of 50, helping to put out the fire. Now, a 50-year-old, even in this day and age, you don't see people jumping rooftop to rooftop. I know back then alleyways were smaller and that villages were closer.
He was built different.
He's clearly built different. He was beheading 12-year-olds. That's built different. Other stories of his death claim that Musashi's students discovered him in serious ill health and carried him down from the cave back to the village, in which he would have had his resting place somewhere in the village. But whatever death may be accurate, there's no denying that Miyamoto Musashi was the greatest swordsman that has ever lived. I want you to try and guess this fucker's KD ratio without looking.
Without looking, and he's been in a fair few battles.
He is. And by the way, this KD ratio is not including the battles, the kills he had in war.
And not just that, the amount of times he's actually beat people while sparring.
Yeah, so this is his kills in duels.
Like,
so 1v1s.
So, like, has he gone over 100?
Nope.
So he's like 58.
Oh, close. 61 and 0.
61 and 0.
So he's beat 61 people and never lost.
And amongst them people, some of the people that we spoke about.
Yeah, some tough guys. Miyamoto Musashi was a symbol of the old samurai spirit, and he was a fucking badass in my opinion. There have been 36 films, including 6 with the title of Miyamoto Musashi, and a television series made about Musashi's life. Even in Musashi's time, there were fictional texts about him resembling comic books. So back then, people was even trying to write books and stuff about him.
And make manga and stuff with
And
Miyamoto.
funnily enough, I'm actually writing a comic right now. Well, I say writing it, I'm actually illustrating it, would you say? Making the art to it.
Sneak peek?
Yeah, I'll put a little sneak peek up there. I'm about 4 pages in, but I'll only show you one of the pages. Yeah, I'm enjoying doing that. I know there already is a manga based on it, but mine's got a bit of a spin on it.
Fair play, picking up a new hobby. It's good. I always think it's good trying something new. Never know if you enjoy doing it.
That's true.
Run with stuff for a little bit. You never know.
Right, this podcast, run with it. So obviously the films and televisions have been made about him. People making comic books even whilst he was alive, or something that resembles comic books. And it is therefore difficult to separate fact from fiction whilst discussing and researching Musashi, because a lot of it is maybe this happened, maybe that happened, as you probably heard.
And it's from the 1600s.
Yeah. But if you want to get like a simple, accurate reading on his life, his book kind of does go into it. Not too in depth, but it does describe some of the duels he had and what he went through. Musashi's mindset and strategies are commonly still used today by businessmen and martial artists, such as UFC fighter Yuri Prohaska. We all love Yuri. Yuri was given a book by his old trainer and has since lived by Miyamoto's words of wisdom. I actually discovered Miyamoto Musashi's story from hearing Yuri talk about him and his book. And once again, I didn't discover this fucker from Joe Rogan, alright? I'm not influenced by Joe Rogan, I just like Miyamoto. I just want to add that I didn't include the entirety. Everything I found while researching Miyamoto was a bit, as I said, maybe this, maybe that. But a few points I'd like to add is that there was a duel where he had beaten a samurai. I couldn't find his name. And the samurai obviously lost. He walked away for 3 years, tried training like Miyamoto, and he challenged him to a duel, and they ended up actually drawing. So he does have a draw on his... he has a draw on his record. Not that a record was back then even existing. I didn't want to include all the details due to some bits being boring or even being obvious lies and rumours. And here's the thing. I did want to create a badass chart. And obviously I want to start doing stuff on famous figures from history. And I want to make a badass chart. So there's going to be, you have to rate Miyamoto on the badass scale of 1 to 100. And then maybe like this time next year, we'll have a look at the chart, see who's the top badass.
Maybe as we go, we can add them
Yeah.
on the chart.
Yeah, not like a tier list because it would be hard to kind of move them around, but I think like a score system would be good.
Yeah, but he's got to be up there. I mean, when you think about it, these are all 1v1s.
Yep.
It's not like he's dropped a bomb somewhere and got a mass kill for it. This guy was a unit.
He's also a strategist when you think about it. He's wrote a poem, he's wrote a book. He's a fucking man that went around slaughtering people. Smart man.
Strategically stunk of shit.
So
do you know, actually, I think it was you that told me this. Some people in the UFC, right? I don't know if these are rumours.
No, this ain't a rumour. This is true, and I know
some people in the UFC will not shower or bath, so that when they get in the octagon and they're rolling around with people, they stink of shit, and it puts their opponent. They stink of BO, and it puts their opponent off their game.
Yeah, Same with bad breath. Some people don't brush their teeth because they think it will put their opponent off.
I prefer the Mike Chandler spit.
They'll fish it. Right. So 1 to 100. What did you say?
On a scale of 1 to 100. Now, I don't know who else you're going to mention on here.
This is why it's going to be a bit tough.
And he's picked a really kind of high one to set the bar for the rest.
Well, just
So-
shall I throw some names out there that might be on the list?
Yeah.
Shunzu, I'll put him on there. I'll put maybe Lubu. Oh, they won't all be Japanese, by the way.
Zenyatta.
That's from Overwatch, isn't it? Honda. Hi Hyundai. No, I'll put that was racist, not funny. I'll put historical figures, maybe Adolf Hitler, Winston Churchill, people like that. Interesting
so-
people.
I'm going to rate him on a bad. We're talking badass, aren't we?
We're talking badass.
All right, cool. So he's got to be at least 80s. I'm going to go with
80s.
85.
85. I'll write it
85, we
down.
set the bar there
I'll add it to the chart.
because that's a good score. That is a good score.
I'd say that's a solid score. Obviously, I'm
Because
biased.
that is going to be really hard to beat.
I'm not going to score it because, I love him. He's my fucking favourite figure in history. And I'd score him 100. That's why I asked you. And it's going to be you scoring it because I'll read it out and you can score. So, Bill, do you want to hit him with the outro? Maybe give him a teaser of what's to come?
Yeah, what is to come? Well, I wanted to do an episode on maybe some of the stuff that happened at OP Rock. You're probably wondering what that is.
I'm wondering what that is.
What that is.
It sounds like a drug, like opiates
OP
and
Rock. I'll
rock.
give you a really, really brief story.
Go on.
So there's a certain part in, I think it's in Afghanistan, where it's like open mountains, and on one of these mountains is called OP Rock, and the US military mainly gets sent there. And when they get sent there, they will look during the night, will look down their thermal vision and stuff, and let's just say they will see things running at them and stuff like that, which even there isn't anything there. I'm not gonna go over it too in depth now, but I'll tell you some of the stuff which
I'm interested
actually
in that.
they encountered and what happened and why they reckon that it's actually haunted there. So,
And by the way, we don't actually talk about the stories that we're going to say on here because we want it to look genuine. Obviously, he has a rough idea on Miyamoto, but we want it to be like he's asking
Definitely.
genuine questions he wants to know.
Whenever me and him say that we're going to talk about something on here, I'll literally say, "Oh, I want to talk about this subject," and that's it. There's no more. Oh, because of this happened, or I've got a really good story. I'm just going to tell him, "Oh, I want to talk about this. I think it will be good because," and then that's it. It's like Miyamoto though. He's picked someone really popular there, so I think you could probably ask like maybe out of 10 people, 4 people would probably know who Miyamoto was out of the 10.
Yeah, I guess so. It depends.
Especially my age, I feel like he's definitely been brought to life a lot more recently in life with UFC and with mixed martial arts, and people want
even
to know
anime.
more about.
A lot of animes are inspired by him.
Yeah, exactly that. People want to know about samurais. They want to know about the stuff they're seeing.
So, did you want to hit him with the outro?
Do we have an outro?
Just a little bye. Just a little hope you all enjoy. Just a little comment down below.
If you got this far, I want you to comment cheese on the bottom.
Cheese.
Just that we know that you got this far. Ask us any questions. We said this last time.
Yeah.
Ask us any questions you want. Hit that sub button because we want to try and grow the audience, I guess.
Hit us with some maybe subjects you want to talk about because we're not just going to be talking about. Obviously, I'm going to be doing historical figures. Bill's going to be doing a lot of crime and maybe some conspiracy theories, stuff along them lines. But stuff you want to see, we'll do a joint one together. We'll both research it and we both, tell it on here.
And it's Thursday now, but this one's coming out Sunday, I think.
Yeah, this one is going up Sunday.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have more recorded by Sunday. So we're just kind of stock them up. So we're consistent with the schedule. As we said, every Wednesday and every Sunday there will be videos coming out. Yeah, podcasts coming out for you to listen to.
Also, do apologise about my reading. It's a bit hard to read stuff out loud because normally I'm reading stuff in my head. I don't really read out loud, and it's weird to get you're reading, when to stop reading, when to have a break, stuff like that.
It's definitely the longest one we've done so far, though. So
Yeah, I'm
Hopefully we
sweating my nut
didn't.
off.
Hopefully we didn't bore you too much to death.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Microphone check 1 2.
Let's go behead some 12-year-olds.
Let's go behead some 12-year-olds.